Specimens seem agitated today. I wonder if it's a reaction to their recent dietary changes.
What are you talking about? They're acting the same as they do every day.
They may look docile, but I assure you, that is not the case. You can tell by their posture. They look anxious, ready for trouble, as it were.
Yes, of course.
I observe them every day. They might be the most remarkable creations in the Institute's history.
I've never understood why we created them in the first place. I still don't see their purpose.
I like to think the ability to create them is purpose enough.
Of course.
In our last episode, we discovered who was freeing the synths from the Institute. Much to Justin Io's both chagrin and pleasure, Father wants us to talk with Allie Fillmore, but on our way, we hear about a problem.
Sounds like things are pretty bad in bioscience. I hope you can resolve the situation.
With that, we begin the quest, A House Divided. Talk to Newton Oberly. Dr. Oberly needs us. I wonder what's going on. It appears that we're out of the loop. Word of this latest catastrophe has spread all around the Institute.
Higgs and Loken have officially lost their minds. They'll be lucky not to be exiled. Without access to bioscience, how are we going to eat?
If you ask me, this ridiculous plot by Higgs and Loken is just a stunt to get
Holding
attention.
our food supply hostage? Higgs and Loken are delusional if they think that's going to work.
Higgs and Loken have officially lost their minds. They'll be lucky not to be exiled.
Higgs and Loken are no better than children throwing a temper tantrum.
What are Higgs and Loken doing? Holding the Institute's food supply hostage? We find Newton Oberly inside bioscience.
For goodness sake, be reasonable. I know you can hear me, now open this door. What's the use? It's damn selfish, that's what it is.
What's going on?
Dr. Higgs and Dr. Loken have decided to protest your appointment as Father's successor. They've taken control of the bioscience security systems and cut off our food supply.
That kind of insubordination can't be tolerated.
Have they made any demands?
Not yet, but I expect they'll demand that you renounce all ties to the Institute.
Oh, great. Like I don't have enough problems.
Well, I'm sorry you've been inconvenienced, but solving personnel issues is part of an administrator's job.
They've lost their minds.
No, they've lost faith.
I'm sure they'll calm down in time.
I know these men, and I can assure you they are completely serious.
Is there a way I can communicate with them?
As a matter of fact, there is.
This isn't going to change anything.
Well, perhaps if you could just talk to them, this could all be resolved peacefully. In fact, I think I can help you with that.
It's one thing to protest, but this is going way too far.
Look, I can see that you're angry, but please, talk to them before resorting to more violent measures.
Maybe I can reason with them.
I believe I can help with that. I can unlock the maintenance tunnel that leads to the bioscience observation room. From there, you should be able to communicate with Higgs and Loken. If you can't reason with them, you can use this holotape to access the command functions on the observation room terminal. That should give you some options. Just please, try to talk to them first. Use violence only as a last resort.
With that, he gives us the bioscience system's access holotape. I wonder what these command functions let us do. He then moves over to this nearby door.
Here we are. Just give me a moment. There, it's unlocked.
Which is weird because this isn't a tunnel, and it was never locked before this quest. We had to open this door and explore this side passage to find the FEV lab, which we were able to do in our first Institute video. With that, Newton Oberly leaves. Guess he's gonna let us handle it. But it appears that Higgs and Loken have rewired some synths. We find hostile Gen 2s in the next room. Navigating through these rooms, we see that they've also activated ceiling-mounted turrets. With the turrets in Synth's dead, we can head down the corridor into the small greenhouse and through a door into the observation room. But they notice us.
Aha! I thought I heard something. Made it past the guards, Impressive.
Loken talks to us through the observation window.
If you've come to change our minds, then you're wasting your time.
Can we talk about this?
Father chose not to talk to the Directorate before anointing you his successor. So how about I follow his fine example?
You're upset. I get it. You've made your point. Now, open the door.
I'm not taking orders from you. You haven't earned my respect, and you never will.
I had a more direct solution in mind.
Oh, really? Our Synth guards are programmed to attack anyone who enters here. So by all means, come and join us. Just don't say I didn't warn you.
I know you're angry, but there's a better way to handle this.
Oh, you're wrong. You see, I've tried talking. For years, I've suggested that we do things differently here, but nobody listens. Let's see if anyone can afford to ignore me now.
We have 4 options, including 1 charisma check.
Don't you think you're being a little selfish here?
Far from it. What we do to protect the Institute.
I'm not a patient person, Dr. Higgs.
Unlike you, Dr. Loken and I are very patient. We have more than enough food to stay locked in here as long as is necessary. You and the others will go hungry long before we do.
Don't force me to take drastic measures, Doctor.
Oh, so you mean to martyr us then? I assure you, Dr. Loken and I are prepared to make any sacrifice in order to uphold the ideals of the Institute.
Or if we fail the charisma check,
Father believes in me. The least you can do is give me a chance.
No, the risk is too great. Without experienced and competent leadership, the Institute could be thrown into chaos. Decades of research could be jeopardized.
Last chance, Doctor. Sure you won't change your mind? I thought you were a reasonable man. Maybe I was wrong.
This is much bigger than just you and I. I'm protecting decades of research and progress. The answer is no. We will not back down.
You're a stubborn fool, and you're not gonna like how this ends.
Nor will you. If you leave us here, everyone else will starve because you were too stubborn to refuse Father's appointment. Remove us by force, and everyone will fear and despise you. I'm afraid you lose either way.
We seem to be at an impasse.
Then there's nothing more to talk about, is there?
Who's that in the control room?
Father's heir apparent. He made it past your impenetrable defenses.
But if he got that far...
Compose yourself, man. We've always known the risks, but we are still in control.
with that, Higgs walks to Loken, and we've got to find a different way in. That dialogue tree was complicated, and we'll explore the options that we get if we pass the charisma check in a bit. But since we couldn't convince him to open the door, we gotta figure out a different way to do this. Thankfully, Newton Oberly gave us the command holotape, and all we need to do is insert it into this nearby bioscience terminal. Inside, we find 3 options. We can disable automated turrets, but we already destroyed those in the corridor. We can initiate a specimen release, or we can unlock the door. If we unlock the door,
The door's unlocked! Synth Defense Protocol 1!
the synths protecting Max and Lawrence turn hostile, and we have to destroy them.
Is someone present? I have found you.
With the synths dead, Higgs and Loken cower in the corner, and now we have to decide what to do with them.
Dr. Loken,
You have a lot to learn if you're really going to be the next director of the Institute.
it's over, Dr. Higgs.
What do you plan to do now? Kill us and take the key? Go on then. Prove how right we were.
Is that what you want? To be a martyr?
I want only what's best for the Institute. It's all I've ever wanted.
This has gone on long enough. Open the door now. You're beaten, Dr. Higgs. Your plan failed. Now open the door.
No, I refuse. Now do your worst.
Enough! Have you lost your mind, Lawrence? I'll do it. I'll open the door.
Max, no.
It's over, Lawrence. And you're a fool if you can't see that. Now, unless you intend to shoot me, please stand aside while I put an end to this.
Future generations will remember this decision, Max. I'll make sure of it.
If we choose any of those three options, Max Loken walks to the terminal and unlocks the door.
I suggest we confine ourselves to quarters until our fate's decided. We can at least face the consequences with our dignity intact.
What choice do we have?
Higgs and Loken then leave bioscience and confine themselves in their quarters. We now have to decide what to do with them. However, the fourth dialogue option is to attack.
I'm ending this right now.
Both men cower. They don't defend themselves. On Higgs' body is the security override password. Oddly enough, even though Max Loken unlocks and opens the door if we choose the peaceful route, we don't find the override code on his inventory. With the keycard in hand, we can go to the nearby bioscience terminal where we see a security override in progress and access is restricted. We can use the holotape to unlock the door and leave bioscience. However, going all the way back to when we were in the observation room, there was another option on the terminal where we used the holotape that Oberly gave us, besides just unlocking the door. And that option was to initiate specimen release. If we choose this option,
The gorilla pin door is opening.
the safety glass closing off the gorilla pen slides aside, and the synth gorillas wreak havoc on bioscience. They race around the room, killing the Gen 2 synths and Higgs and Loken. In practice, however, I found this encounter to be a bit glitchy. They're also aggressive to the sole survivor and his companion, and so sometimes, even though Higgs and Loken are closer, they'll focus on us or our companion, race to the door, and ignore the rest of them. Regardless, we next have to go into the room and kill the synth gorillas. And if the gorillas didn't kill any of the Gen 2 synths or Higgs and Loken, we've got to kill them too.
Sloppy tactics, bad aim. This won't take long. Secured.
We then loot the security override password holotape from Higgs, and we find synthetic gorilla meat on the gorilla corpses. This is the only way to get this exceptionally rare resource. Well, I mean, it's not really a resource. We can't do anything with it. We can't cook it, though we can eat it. It heals 30 hit points, and because it comes from a synth gorilla that was never exposed to radiation, it does not dose us in rads. Compare that to Brahmin meat, which only heals us for 10 hit points and over 10 seconds. With the synth meat, it instantly heals 30 hit points. And actually, there is one other way to get gorilla meat if we make a certain choice much later in the game. But this meat only comes from the synth gorillas, and here there are only 2. It has no real purpose, but a collector might want it. Then we leave bioscience just like before. But there's another way to resolve this, going all the way back to the conversation we had with Higgs on the other side of the observation glass. We could pass the red charisma check.
Father believes in me. The least you can do is give me a chance.
How could you hope to lead us when you hardly know anything about what we do? I'm sure you mean well, but you must see that it's an impossible task.
This brings us to a new dialogue tree, which has its own pitfalls.
You'd rather everyone fight over the job? Is that what's best for the Institute?
I agree that the transition will be chaotic, but eventually, a leader will emerge from that chaos. Then, things will return to normal, and the work will resume.
Maybe, maybe not. All I'm asking is that you keep an open mind.
I'm sorry, but our minds are made up. Both Dr. Loken and I have resolved to stand our ground.
If I just stay out of everyone's way, it should be easy.
If only it were that simple. Unfortunately, you don't have Father's scientific background. You can't hope to relate to us or understand the work we do here.
I'm under no illusion that this will be easy.
Your determination is admirable, if misguided. The truth is simply this. You have no idea what it means to be the director of the Institute.
This brings us to yet another dialogue tree with another charisma check to pass. If we don't pass any of the charisma checks...
Can't you at least give me a chance?
Out of the question. Even with the best of intentions, the amount of damage you might cause could set us back years. If you truly want to honor Father's legacy, then you should leave here and never return.
If neither of us is willing to change our minds, then I guess that's that. What you've done here is inexcusable. And you will answer for it. I know you're upset, but I'm not going to change my mind.
There's nothing more to say then. Of course, sooner or later, the others will be forced to take my side. I think you'll find that hunger can be very persuasive.
He again walks over to Max, and even though we passed the red charisma check, we still have to use the holotape to open the door, and the quest plays out like we've already explored. But if we passed the second yellow charisma check...
Can't you at least give me a chance?
A chance? What do you think, Max?
Even the most fastidious researcher must sometimes take a leap of faith. I say let's give it a try.
Very well then. Open the door and let's return to the fold.
Synths, abort command override and resume normal functions.
He has the synths stand down, but he doesn't unlock the door. We still have to use the holotape to unlock it. And of course, from this holotape, even after passing these charisma checks, we could still release the synth gorillas. The men walk out the door and return to their quarters. When done, we can leave bioscience and step outside. And upon doing so, we find Newton Oberly waiting for us. And depending on our choices inside, we have one of two interactions with Oberly. If any of our choices resulted in Higgs and Loken dying, we have the following conversation.
That was unfortunate. We don't like violence here, and I fear your actions will have consequences.
What was I supposed to do? Let everyone starve?
I don't mean to preach. I simply wish that matters could have been resolved more peacefully.
The important thing is that we got the food supply back.
You're right, of course. When Higgs and Loken chose their path, they chose the consequences that go with it.
Stop whining, and be grateful that I got your food supply back.
Yes, of course. Sorry if I seemed ungrateful.
The food supply is secure. I'd still call that a win.
In the short term, perhaps. But choosing violence always carries a cost. I'll see that the mess in hydroponics is cleaned up. I suppose I should also make the funeral arrangements. Well, there's much to do, so I'll get about it. In the meantime, I'm sure everyone will be relieved that this is over.
And despite him saying that there would be consequences, there are literally no consequences for killing Higgs and Loken. Not even the other scientists in the concourse have anything to say about our decision, but they have something to say about every other decision we can make. So essentially, the most potentially consequential choice we could have made has the fewest consequences. Alternatively, if we left bioscience with Higgs and Loken alive, we have a completely different conversation with Oberly that has a myriad of choices.
Newton.
Bravo! I admit I was fearing for the worst, but I can see that I underestimated you.
What do you mean you feared the worst?
I just didn't want to see anyone get hurt.
I'm starting to get used to that.
I apologize. I won't doubt you again.
Keeping our food supply secure is your responsibility. This better not happen again.
I'll make it my top priority.
I'm just glad they listened to reason.
Indeed. There is one further matter to discuss. Obviously, some kind of disciplinary action must be taken here. The question of what form it takes is up to you.
We have 4 choices, each with their own consequences. We could do nothing.
There's no need to drag this out. I believe they learned their lesson.
Your compassion and understanding speak well of you.
I agree, but they should be watched carefully, or they might try this again.
I'll take that holotape back. I also wanted to offer you something as a more personal expression of gratitude. I know that your work often takes you to the surface where supplies are scarce. I gathered these items together for you. I think you'll find them useful.
With that, we complete the quest, A House Divided. We get 5 jet and 5 mentats. And if we choose to do nothing, the people of the Institute appear to approve of it.
I want to compliment you on your handling of the situation in bioscience. Bravo.
And X688 liked that option. and we can find Higgs and Loken walking around the Institute.
I regret what we did.
Increase in
In
security.
fact, I feel like a complete fool about it.
Something about
I suppose I'll never be trusted again.
Or we can put them on probation.
Put them on probation. Limit their access to quarters and non-working areas.
That's more than fair. I'll see to it that everyone's notified.
Good decision. Those men could still have a lot to contribute. They just need to learn their lesson.
X688 loves this option. We complete the quest, get the same rewards, but the people of the Institute have something different to say.
you showed a lot of leniency with Dr. Higgs and Dr. Loken.
Higgs and Loken are lucky to be alive. Not everyone would have handled that situation as well as you did.
And we find Higgs and Loken confined to their quarters.
I can't believe I let Lawrence talk me into that scheme. I was wrong about you. I think you'll make a great leader for the Institute.
There's no need to gloat. I'm man enough to admit that I lost. I wasn't expecting you to let us live. That surprised me.
Or we can banish them from the Institute.
Give them supplies and then throw them out. They're banned for life.
I wish I could say that that would be unfair. But there's no denying those men put all of our lives at risk. I'll see to those supplies. At least they'll have a fighting chance, which is perhaps more than they deserve.
The surface? That's a fate worse than death. They don't deserve that.
But X688 hates that. We still complete the quest, we still get the quest reward, and the people of the Institute think we went a bit too far.
I'm not saying that Higgs and Loken didn't deserve exile, but I wish you'd given them another chance. Banished to the surface. It might have been kinder just to have Higgs and Loken executed.
Dr. Higgs and Dr. Loken are probably dead by now, but I doubt you'll lose any sleep over that.
What's odd about this is it's really amazing to see literally everyone in the Institute upset with the idea of Higgs and Loken being banished to the surface, a fate worse than death, after they tried to starve the entire Institute. But Liam Benet releases a bunch of synths that want to escape, and the only option is his banishment. And everyone in the Institute thinks, that was a good idea. Or we could pass a charisma check to execute them. And if we fail...
They were prepared to let everyone starve to death. They have to die.
What? Execute them? But that's not how we do things here. Please, I beg you, choose something else. Anything.
we could try again.
If I don't send a strong message now, this will happen again.
I'm sorry, but I won't do that. We're not savages. I must insist that you choose another form of punishment.
But he won't let us pick it. We have to choose one of the other three options. But if we pass the charisma check...
They were prepared to let everyone starve to death. They have to die.
I understand. I'll make the necessary arrangements, though it saddens me to do so.
X688 disliked that option. He didn't hate it like he hated banishment. He merely disliked it. We complete the quest, but of note, Oberly does not give us a reward in chems. And of course, the people of the Institute have a lot to say about this choice.
You went too far when you had Higgs and Loken executed, and I'm not the only one who thinks so.
Higgs and Loken were trying to protect the Institute. They deserved a second chance. If you plan to execute everyone who disagrees with you, there won't be an Institute left for you to lead.
Dr. Higgs and Dr. Loken were out of line, but do they really need to die?
Solving problems with deadly force isn't how we do things here. You might want to consider that.
Aside from that, there are no further ramifications for the choices we can make in this quest. Father doesn't even acknowledge the quest exists, and it doesn't have any ramifications on the overarching plot. That said, it is a window of insight into the values of the people of the Institute. They dislike violence, but they follow orders from their director even if they dislike them. And those who don't are guilty of treason. They value second chances, even when their lives are threatened. And above all, they think that life above ground is worse than death. Also, I think it's important to realize why this event occurred to begin with. It didn't occur just because Father named an outsider, a non-scientist, the next director of the Institute. That, of course, was a huge motivation. But primarily it occurred because Father made that decision without consulting the directorate. He made that decision without letting anyone else in the Institute have any input into it.
Can we talk about this?
Father chose not to talk to the Directorate before anointing you his successor. So how about I follow his fine example?
At some level, the scientists in the Institute expect some sort of collaboration. They expect to have some input before decisions are made, and they want their voices to have influence. You know, like any other reasonable, rational thinking person. The scientists don't want to be ruled. At their core, they want to have a voice. And when their voices aren't heard, they take it personally.
You see, I've tried talking. For years, I've suggested that we do things differently here, but nobody listens. Let's see if anyone can afford to ignore me now.
And it can lead to bitterness and resentment. Essentially, this event occurred directly because of Father's authoritarianism. And what I find most fascinating is a conversation between Nate and Lawrence, which essentially goes over the pros and cons of a dictatorship compared to democracy.
You'd rather everyone fight over the job? Is that what's best for the Institute?
I agree that the transition will be chaotic, but eventually, a leader will emerge from that chaos.
Here, Nate tries to paint democracy as everyone quote-unquote fighting over the job. Lawrence admits that that would be chaotic, as democracies always are. But he says that eventually a leader will emerge from the chaos. That is to say, someone will be voted into that position. And with everyone in the Institute having a voice towards that election, fewer people are going to feel disenfranchised. A disenfranchisement that might lead to a rebellious event like this. I wonder how many times in the Institute's history scientists have rebelled like this. I get the impression that it's a pretty rare occurrence, which makes me wonder if in the past, before Sean took over the Institute, things were a bit more collaborative. The Directorate actually had greater influence on the Director. I have a great fear that the Institute's lean towards authoritarianism was started by Sean, and Sean wields so much influence and power that few people, except for stubborn old men like Lawrence, are willing to stand against him. But at any rate, we've solved all of the Institute's problems for now. In our next episode, we'll meet up with Allie Fillmore to see how she needs our help. Father mentioned something about mass fusion? To find out what that's all about, tune in to my next episode. I publish new episodes on this channel each and every week, so if you don't want to miss it, be sure to subscribe and to click that bell notification button. If you have already, but you still feel like you're missing out on YouTube notifications, consider following me on Twitter at Oxhorn. I update Twitter manually with every new piece of content that I publish. I have a merch shop with completely unique designs that you can't find anywhere else. My designs come on shirts in a variety of men's, women's, and children's sizes, and in a wide array of colors. They come on other items as well, like smartphone cases, pillows, posters, mugs, stickers, prints, etc. So if interested, you can find a link to my shop in the description below, or you can click here. If you like what I do and you want to support me in another way, consider becoming a patron on Patreon or a member here on YouTube. YouTube members get little badges that appear next to their names in the comment sections of my videos, and access to Ox emojis that they can use in my video comments and in the live chats of my live streams. But more than anything, I'm just so glad you're here watching this video with me today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon with the next episode in the full story of Fallout 4.
There's no need to gloat. I'm man enough to admit that I lost.
Dr. Higgs.
I suppose I'll never be trusted again. I wasn't expecting you to let us live. That surprised me. We have several people qualified to become the next director. Father's lost his mind.